In 2016, for 3 days only on the ScottGames.com site, a game was released, named Chica's Secret Party. A simple, 8-bit style game where you get cupcakes to feed crying kids. But don't be fooled by its simplicity. This game alone explains all of FNAF's unsolved mysteries. The shadow animatronics, Midnight Motorists, what's in the box, and the details of the Bite of 87. The only problem? The game never existed. Fans were shocked when in November 2025, pages from the soon-to-be-released FNAF Ultimate Guide 2.0 were leaked online, which included the book's contents page holding Chapter 13, named Chica's Secret Party. Of course, everyone was skeptical, saying it was either a fake leak or a stand-in chapter name for Into the Pit. But everything changed on December 2nd when the book released. Early buyers opened the guide, intrigued to read Chapter 13, to find, just like the leak had shown, Chica's Secret Party. The chapter read about a secret game where you play as Chica moving through a 3-story house to feed crying children cupcakes. Whilst you travel through the house, you have to avoid 2 shadowy figures, with the game ending in an unexpected party with some unwanted visitors. Would these be the shadow animatronics we've seen in previous games? The book then lists several levels Chica travels through: the dark basement, the kitchen dining room, the living room, master bedroom, kids bedroom, secret room, home office, bathroom, garage, attic. The real meat in the chapter came from the guide, more than a little unclear wording. Specifically the end, where, and I quote, "Sha sha sha!" All our uninvited guests, Fredbear, Greyman, Bonnie, and Golden Freddy, move through the hall's dance. Chica decides to join the dance train throughout the house. After all, the party doesn't have to end. It was more than a little weird to see this lineup of characters in the house: Chica, Golden Freddy, and Bonnie from the original games, but also Fredbear from FNAF 4 and Greyman? The only 2 times we've seen a Greyman are in FNAF World and Midnight Motorists, and there is no evidence to connect us to either of the 2. I thought a little bit harder about what each of these characters could mean on a more metaphorical level. Fredbear could be an obvious stand-in for the crying child, and Golden Freddy for Cassidy, aka the one you should not have killed. With the connection to the shadow animatronics previously in the chapter, Bonnie could be RQX. In Special Delivery, we have to avoid RQX every time you collect Remnant. If we follow that logic, we can find that RQX is probably made from the agony of the missing children's incident, meaning he possibly could be a stand-in for the MCI kids. But now we're left with Chica and Greyman. The Greyman, if we follow the logic of the other guest, would have to be another one of the tragedies in FNAF, with a direct connection to William Afton. Could this be Henry Emily? It doesn't quite seem right if each of the guests was the direct consequence of William Afton. Henry just seems out of place. You know who doesn't? Michael Afton. Mike has been seen many times in grey shirts and speaking with a grey colour in FNAF 4. But further than that, I believe William sees Michael as a grey man, as he never got to know him. He was the outcast child after William spent so much focus on his work and murders. It was the idea of a man William would never know. Chica then could be a stand-in for William Afton, as Toy Chica was in Ultimate Custom Nights Toy Chica's school years. But that was Toy Chica, and that's different to Chica Chica, unless we had something that shows us that this Chica is Toy Chica, except these 4 images are shown on the page of Chica's Secret Party. We see her throughout the various levels bringing cupcakes to the crying children, wearing the Toy Chica outfit. She clearly has the same pink bikini as Toy Chica, meaning she could be a reasonable fit for an Afton stand-in. Wait, is that Midnight Motorist? Midnight Motorists is one of the 3 major 8-bit minigames in FNAF Pizzeria Simulator, in which you drive in a purple car at dangerous speeds down the highway. Except this game holds a secret, where on the final lap you can escape the highway and enter another 8-bit minigame, which in the files is named Later That Night. In this game, we can make our way through 3 strange locations. First, a bar where this unnamed mustard man is not allowed in. Perhaps he had one too many and was driving under the influence. Second is a strange mound of dirt in the ground. Perhaps a DIY grave? And the most important is the mustard man's house. He enters to see a grey person watching TV, who says, "Leave him alone, he's had a rough day." Continuing, you find a locked door to your kid's room where you get a tiny bit aggressive at him and decide to break in through his window. When you get to it, you discover he's already broken out. He's off to that place again, you say. This game was the most confusing of all, in a game that was meant to tie up loose ends. Who is this mustard man, grey person, and son who has broken out? Why is the game titled Later That Night? Where does the son run off to? What is the strange mound in the ground? And strangest of all, why are there one singular set of animatronic footprints outside of the kid's window? Common fan consensus was that the mustard man here is William Afton, who comes home after murdering Charlotte Emily to find his son, the crying child, has run off. Or perhaps his son, Michael Afton, has run off to the crying child's grave, or to the FNAF pizzeria. It was all a confusing Mad Lib style answer. Think of a name, think of a place, think of a murder, boom, you got a theory. It seems clear that Chica's secret party was made to explain the Midnight Motorists game, as well as the demo for the upcoming 5 Laps at Freddy's. Yes, that's right, a FNAF-themed Mario Kart that releases later this year. The demo to 5 Laps has an entire car and level dedicated to Midnight Motorists. This car has a strange antenna on the back of it, of a yellow rabbit. Where else, my friends, have we seen a yellow rabbit? The spring Bonnie suit, which Afton uses to lure the kids. Not convinced? Well, it also has an unused game description file saying, the perfect car to flee a crime scene and win a race. This seems to be pretty clear evidence that this mustard man is the same as that purple guy, who fled from Charlotte Emily's murder back home to find his kid. But wait, the front of the Midnight Motorist car in 5 Laps has 2 dice on it, and you'll never guess what numbers they show. No, not 83 when Charlotte was murdered, but none other than 87. On top of that, the BPM for the classic music of Midnight Motorist is 187. Even the appearance of the shadow animatronics in Chica's secret party requires Midnight Motorist to take place after the missing children's incident, which only happened after Charlotte's murder. All the evidence seems to point that Midnight Motorist takes place in 1987, but then what crime scene is he fleeing? 1987 was the grand reopening of the FNAF 2 location, with all the new toy animatronics being in use. With the return of Freddy's, came the return of William Afton. William readorned the spring Bonnie suit, and his role as the day guard, that we can see by his badge in the FNAF 2 minigames, he killed another set of kids, known as the Dead Children's Incident, or DCI. But wait, isn't Midnight Motorist, set at midnight? William Afton couldn't have killed the kids in the day, but then no kids would be around at night. So surely this can't be right. But what if I told you he captured the children during the day and only killed them on his night shift job? That's how no one recognized his face as William Afton during the day. Then how could he have captured any kids, let alone 5? What if I told you that the toy animatronics were designed for murder? I know, it sounds crazy, but they all have some strange features. They have facial recognition with access to a criminal database. Sounds a lot like an excuse to have cameras in their eyes. They have advanced movement systems, perhaps to capture kids, and they move to the loudest part of the building, huh? This is just a load of baloney. As we see, they always come to the office despite the active music box across the pizzeria. Although I think they can hear where the loudest room is, they're just programmed to avoid it. So when a kid is caught alone, their advanced movement systems can strike. I mean, why else should Toy Chica need to remove her beak? You may say, oh, it's for cleaning, but then why wouldn't regular Chica have this built-in feature? I mean, heck, this whole pizzeria is designed as a death trap. Every room, connected by vents only large enough for the animatronics to climb through, has only one exit, easy for the toys to corner and trap any kids that are left alone. Then, the night of the opening, William Afton, adorning the spring Bonnie suit, just in case, came in as night guard to make sure all the kids were dead before returning home in Midnight Motorists. He comes home to his wife watching TV, who tells him not to bother Michael as he's had a rough day. He comes around to find Michael has run off, assuming it's once again to the crying child's nearby hidden grave. Chica's secret party then is showing the story from Afton's point of view, as he, intoxicated, arrives home, his head reeling with the thrill of murder as he imagines killing more kids. We know this because in the basement level of Chica's secret party, we can save the kids from the flooding room by feeding them cupcakes, which mysteriously makes them float off through the water to safety. You know what else floats in water? Dead body. Chica's party is showing his conscience fighting itself, as Afton's mind's unwanted guests of his dead son, his son who he'd never know, and the victims of his murdering, show the side of the guilt that he stores away. The guilt of his dead kid, and all the deaths he causes, that he buries deep down. That is what is in the box. The box and its contents are specifically called out in Chica's secret party as finally being opened, except we don't get to hear what's inside. I believe the box holds William's guilt, at least in a metaphorical sense. as the real box holds the crying child's dead body. The memory of a broken promise and the death that started it all. The only issue? Michael didn't run off to the gravesite again. He ran off to Freddy's. FNAF 2 is the second game released in the franchise, which at first seemed to be following the first game as a regular sequel with a new pizzeria, new animatronics, and some new game features. But fans soon found out that the game is actually a prequel set in 1987. Throughout the first 5 nights, we play as Jeremy Fitzgerald, the night guard who, on the 6th night, is changed to the day guard and replaced by Fritz Smith. Jeremy is then assumed to be the Bite of 87 victim during his day shift. Fritz is promptly fired for tampering with the animatronics and odor, same as Mike Schmidt in FNAF 1. But what if I told you that Jeremy Fitzgerald is actually Michael Afton, not Fritz Smith? We know that Fritz already shares the similarities with Mike, which makes him the obvious contender, but I don't think that works. At least not narratively. So bear with me. We know Midnight Motorists takes place in 1987, directly after the DCI, which again sets FNAF 2 in 1987, as seen by the paycheck state. And in Midnight Motorists, we see William come home to find Mike has run off again after seeing a mysterious pair of footprints. Interestingly, there is only one pair of animatronic footprints, unlike the many of Mike's. This animatronic, therefore, must have the ability to teleport. Who else has the ability to teleport? Well, there are 3 main contenders: Golden Freddy, Shadow Freddy, and RXQ, or Shadow Bonnie. And I believe these footsteps belong to RXQ. Here's why. In Chica's secret party, it calls out how there are 2 Shadow animatronics, Shadow Freddy and RXQ, with one being helpful to William Afton, and the other not so much. We know that these are the product of collecting the remnant from the MCI, and that Bonnie was specifically stated to be a part of William's final uninvited guest. Also, out of all 3 teleporting characters, RXQ is the only one who is shown time and time again to be standing, which is the correct form to make this pair of footprints. Heck, even Chica's secret party specifically tells us that looking out of the window in the parents' room, we can, and I quote, mysteriously see Bonnie walking back and forth in the backyard. With us already seeing this chapter disregard adjectives by calling toy Chica Chica, we can assume the same applies here without being literally told RXQ is outside the window. So what could this mean? Michael Afton had himself locked in his room, still mourning the death of his brother, when on one fateful night after his father had left, he sees RXQ standing outside, beckoning for him to come. RXQ, being the good Shadow, was attempting to lead Michael to the FNAF 2 pizzeria, which is perhaps why he takes the form of Toy Bonnie, rather than Shadow Freddy, who just looks like regular Freddy. Mike, having seen Remnant before with all of his dad's experiments, broke out of the window and followed to the FNAF 2 location to discover nothing. All of the bodies had been hidden already, but he did notice a job application board which made him sign up to be night guard. We then start FNAF 2 as Mike, and after 5 nights we are moved to the day shift for one final party. Meanwhile, Afton comes back as the night guard to collect more Remnant for his fun time, which are the continuation of his murder robot spree after the toys would be dismantled. The toys were in their activated aggression mode, and as Mike finished the shift and started to put away the animatronics, Toy Chica took off her beak and bit him in the frontal lobe. We know this because of Toy Chica's voice line in UCN.
Where's my beak? Lodged in your forehead, of course.
Why specifically would she say forehead? Why not just head? Unless it's meaning something. That same day, Circus Baby's Pizza World was released and promptly closed due to gas leaks because of Elizabeth's murder. Afton stored all of the animatronics underneath his house in the Circus Baby Entertainment and Rental bunker. Afton, in the midst of both Baby's Pizza World and the FNAF 2 location, took the Endo O2 skeletons out of the toys and placed them into the original animatronics. We can clearly see this is what the FNAF survival logbook is illustrating to us in this mysterious Chica photo. No. The other mysterious Chica photo at the end of the book. I mean, why else in the most lore-filled children's book would we see a Chica being rebuilt? And not only that, but we can know this is the Endo O2's Endo, specifically made for the toys because of the 3 rings around the arm. Seem familiar? Well, the only other Endo skeleton to have rings around the arms is the Endo O2. Afton had gone back and took out the endos of the original animatronics to melt down into the fun times. Then, he replaced the endos of the original animatronics with the Endo O2s. Not convinced? Well, In the Ultimate Guide 2.0's character section under Freddy Fazbear's description, it tells us how the original Freddy's eyes change colour, which has never been seen before in any poster or gameplay. But you know who else's eyes change colour? The toy animatronics. And on top of all of that, in the FNAF 2 movie, we are shown the blueprints for the toy animatronics, specifically being made to kill. And beside them, a fully built baby animatronic. She has no right to be there, unless they take place at the same time. It is a sister location after all. 3 days after hearing of Mike's bite, William sends him down to test his theory of immortality. Hoping that Mike would open up baby and infuse with the remnant, Mike did just that, but in a slightly different way. Instead, he got himself scooped, and all the wires from all the fun times stuck inside of him. He'd get launched out into the sewers just days later. But despite all of that, Mike lived due to the remnant. This was the first real proof for Afton's immortality test. It had worked. So one final recap. In 1987, after the death of his brother, Mike had been locking himself in his room whilst the FNAF 2 location was open, where William had let out his first attempts at automatic murderer robots with the toy animatronic, whilst he was still creating the fun times. As a secret job as night guard, one night he sets the toy animatronics to aggression mode, where the next day they cornered 5 kids and captured them. That night, terribly drunk from juniors, William made his way to the pizzeria to where he took the bodies and ensured they were dead to be stuffed in the Endo O2s. On his way home, Michael saw a figure outside of his window, the figure of RXQ, beckoning for him to come. He ran off to the FNAF 2 location as William sped home. As William arrived home, haunted by the visions of the people he's killed, but even more than that, longing for more murder, he made his way up to Michael's room where he found that Michael was run off. William assumed it was once again to the crying child's grave, but just then, Mike arrives at the FNAF 2 location. Failing to discover the bodies, but pressing to learn more about his father's doings and what the Shadow Rabbit was, he signs up as night guard, and after 5 nights, he's moved to day guard only to get bitten in the frontal lobe by Toy Chica as the Circus Baby's pizzeria opened. But then, Elizabeth got killed by Baby, and Circus Baby's pizza shut down. William came back for the final night of the FNAF 2 location before closing to tamper with the animatronics and take out the Endo O2s and place them in the withered animatronics, taking the Endo O1s to be melted down to finish his final murder robots, the fun time. Deep underneath his house, he sends Mike under to experiment with the remnant and see if he can make himself immortal. A whole new timeline, a whole new story, all from Chica's secret party. And finally, to those who say Chica's secret party isn't official, take a look at this clip of the writer.
You know, what I would do if I found that volume at the library, I might just open to chapter 13. Like, I'd start in chapter 13, as you would do a normal classic. Oh my goodness.
And finally, when you first open the book, you will see the title page. Again, but this time, instead of the empty FNAF 1 office, it has the face of Chica staring you down. A hint at the importance of her chapter inside.